because when you looked on YouTube, I was considered the expert on the Jeffrey Epstein story. No one else was talking about it. Very little out there, and the other stuff that was out there was all kind of wacky, exaggerated, kind of Pizzagate type stuff. Not that I'm ridiculing Pizzagate, because again, I did the first radio show about Pizzagate too. But I have off the air witnesses and statements that have gone to the police and gone to the FBI, and were threatened by characters in that story. By the way, all that stuff's been deleted from YouTube. So if you want to follow all that, you can't go on YouTube. It's gone. But it's out there still. So I'm very aware of what's going on with those characters known as Pizzagate. But there's just a lot of nonsense and stuff that was added to it. Frazzle, drip, and all kind of foolishness. The hysteria that they add into these stories. I don't want to get too sidetracked, though. So it was June of 2015 that I was actually hired to work for the first time by a plaintiff and an attorney to work on the Epstein case. And I couldn't talk about it at all because I'd signed a very thorough non-disclosure agreement with the attorney, with the client. But if you go back around that period of time, and I really wish someone would do this someday, and go find all the Friday night shows, starting June 2015 until the present, or until I came out. I guess it was like 2018 when I came out and talked about it. I could divulge that I was involved when Epstein got arrested. No, I think after he was dead that I was allowed to talk about it. But the thing is, I would drop many hints and clues and frustration, on those Friday night shows. And if someone could go and find those and put all those together, there's stuff I said in on those nights that I can't repeat now. Okay, people said to me just before, "Hey, Ed, can you talk about more of what you know now that Maxwell's been arrested?" And no, I can't. And the reason for that is see, when you hire a private investigator, the client takes that privacy part very seriously. It's also this confidential stuff. So I walk a tightrope here, being both a private investigator and an investigative reporter, broadcaster on the radio. Okay? So there's things I'd love to tell you. There's things I would love to tell you, man. There's things I would love to get on the air and brag about from night and day. A very big public case where this guy sued my client, and the guy's in prison, man. We took up dirt on this guy, man. And we got him thrown in prison. I'm messing with the wrong guy. Okay? F around and find out, bro. Okay? I'd love to talk about that. I can't, though. But right around the time of June of 2015, when I was hired on this case, the attorney who hired me this wasn't his specialty. So one of my duties was to try and find co-counsel and help find co-counsel. And what you should know is everyone I presented this case to or pitched this case to, no one turned it down. Okay, and you hear these stories out there. People say, "Oh, that Jane Doe lawsuit, the Katie Johnson lawsuit out there against Trump and Epstein, it was thrown out by the court and it fell apart." Oh, you hear all these wild, crazy stories, and none of that's true. When I first started pitching this around, too, that's when I first got information about a package of photos that was being shopped around to the tabloids and being purchased and then killed, catch and killed, which you can read about in the Ronan Farrow book. Ronan Farrow, by the way, also talks about my lawsuit there, and he talks about how the plaintiff dropped the lawsuit because of fear for her life and threats. We can get into that as we move on. But that's what really happened there. But I heard about this package of photos being shopped around of Trump on Epstein's plane and Epstein on Trump's plane and Epstein on Clinton's plane and Clinton on Epstein's plane. Okay, and there was photos on planes. And there was even some porn stars supposed to be in those photos too as well. Now, I know for a fact these pictures exist. I know they were being shopped around. I didn't see them with my eyes, but I trust the people who told me about them. Because of the reason they were telling me about it, too. It wasn't to brag. It was, business, not foolishness. So Turns out, though, that those pictures were ditched, They were covered up. And but the ones with later on with Clinton on the plane, some of those were released. So whoever controls those pictures is still wheeling and dealing with them. I'm also aware, too, that along the way in this story, that Mr. Trump does a lot of, puts out fires and stops people from talking, either through threats of lawsuits or other, possible threats, and also, too, with the financial compensation. That he does a lot of damage control. And I even talked to one of the PIs who was involved in helping Trump with his damage control. So I'm aware of how this works and what goes on. And I've seen some of it myself. So I kept my mouth shut about my involvement in the case for a long, long time. But I talked about the case, but never my personal involvement in it. And what happened was why the case was dropped. Later on, many other attorneys came on board in this case. Cheney Mason, who was involved in that case down in Florida, down there with the top mom. And later on, there was another attorney, too. I did some work with him later on another kind of sexual harassment type case, but I forget his name. He was from New Jersey, and I believe he was from Jersey, as well. And he was a very prominent attorney. He's a real sharp guy. He knows what they're doing. This wasn't a fly-by-night operation by any means at all. Okay, and it was all need-to-know basis. I'm sure they had other investigators, too. I'm sure they did. Now, what happened is a week before the election, Lisa Bloom had planned a press conference, and her live stream was hacked, and her business website was hacked and shut down by a dedicated denial of service attack. And this terrified the people involved, and she says, that's it, I'm out. Okay. Now, a lot of people like to say, too, that, this was an anonymous lawsuit. No one knows who she is, and she gave a fake address and a fake phone number. No, this is all foolishness. Oh, blah, 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 blah. I know everything about her being involved in this case. I have credit reports, full names, addresses. I know everything, work history, and I know every little detail. Okay? Because this is, how you pitch a lawsuit. This is what you do. You vet these people out. Now, by the way, no one has a problem with any of the other victims, who have come forward and filed lawsuits. Just this one here, because Trump is involved, the people get biased and they say, well, this one I don't believe. I don't believe this. And let me tell you why. I took a deep dive in this, and I did a lot of investigation in this, and I Googled this and I Googled that. And these people telling me this, they didn't even know it's my case, And they're telling me this, that they did all this work on this. Well, for all the people out there who don't endorse this case, the one against Trump and Epstein, this lawsuit, the one that was shut down out of fear, what other cases have you vetted of these victims that you found not to be credible? Because I've vetted quite a few. Okay, I've had many people come to me and say, hey, I was an Epstein victim, and we tried to put together a case, and we could not. There wasn't enough evidence there for a lawyer to take the case. Okay, and it's not, we didn't just shop it around to one or two. We shopped it around to many who were taking other cases in these cases here. So that's my personal experience and all that. Along the way, I managed to get my hands on a lot of exclusive material that no one else had, as document dumps were sent to me. Friends of mine were the ones who found the picture of Prince Andrew at Mar-a-Lago with Epstein. We had found the caption of that. We knew the photo existed. People said I made it up. That whole quote from Vicky Ward, where Trump says, booming on the loudspeaker, oh, Jeffrey Epstein, we've been friends for 15 years, wonderful guy, likes his social life, he likes those girls on the younger side. I made a meme of that 9 years ago, okay? I made a meme, and it got my YouTube channel shut down. It got my first YouTube channel shut down because I had my YouTube URL there, and that's what got it shut down. And people thought I made that up. Okay, because no one could find that quote, and it was very difficult to Google that quote and find that quote. Okay, and there's a reason for that. Okay. Just this week, there was a lot of hubbub, if that's even a word, about Mr. Dershowitz, who was one of Epstein's attorneys at one point, and is also accused of being involved in some of this activity by one of the victims, Virginia Roberts Giuffre, and came out that, well, oh, look at Dershowitz here. He's acting all goofy, going on the BBC, and he doesn't say that he was accused of being involved in this. And I remembered, hey, there's this really funny story about Dershowitz being on this nude beach and bothering all these girls on this nude beach. And they actually went to his wife and complained to his wife, and he went back and he threatened to sue him. And it was an article about this. I read it on the internet. So I mentioned it on Twitter, and I said, let me find that article, because it was, really showed what this guy's like. And not only was the article gone, okay, and I know how this works, okay, when there's a negative article out there, and especially if you're an attorney yourself, you start contacting the publication and the writer and say, hey, I'm going to sue you. There's intent to sue. There's a lot of damages here. Let me show you what the damages are. But also, too, hey, if you cooperate with us, we'll send you a little donation here, send you plane tickets, a little vacation, whatever, So there's a carrot and a stick that goes involved in those. And also, too, there's physical threats and intimidation, too. I'm not saying Dershowitz did, but I know other cases, especially the stories I've done. And then there was physical threats and intimidation against me. There's only one time I succumbed twice to removing material. One, the woman turned out to be completely crazy, and I didn't want the material up. Another time, I felt sorry for the woman. Her lawyer called me up like 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning, and I just took a liking to the guy. I wasn't intimidated, but I took a liking to the guy, and I said, okay, look, I'll take it down. It's insignificant. And there was a third one where an estate came after me, and we couldn't prove. I wouldn't have been able to prove that the reporting we did was true because the evidence was stolen. It was like a black bag burglary job done where the evidence was stolen. That's a lot of fun in the background going on here, right, guys? I guess a lot of people didn't know about all this, right? So I guess the next thing that happened, the next big event in the whole Epstein saga involving myself was when he got arrested, and everyone was talking. Oh, no, Julie K. Brown is somehow in 2018 allowed to break the story. And she comes out with this series of articles in the Miami Herald that had absolutely nothing new from anything I had said up until that day. She provided nothing different or nothing new than I had been reporting for all those years. But she was hailed and awarded a hero, heroine status. And, she's made some comments flattering to myself, and she's acknowledged me in different ways and forwarded things to me. And we've had a little correspondence. I asked her for some material one time over in an email, and she shot it right over to me. Hey, Ed, here you go. How that works, suddenly one day, I'm shouting from the rooftop this story for years and years and years. I talked about it on AM/FM radio. I think I talked about it on Nuri. Talked about it on Richard Hovland. Clyde Lewis. I've talked about the Epstein all over. Jimmy Church. I talked about Epstein. But some people they keep you down. They keep you quiet. They suppress you, shadow ban, I guess they call it, right? So the next thing was the arrest. And then the death, okay? And that's when I was allowed to talk about my involvement. And that's when I got bombarded by media people all over the world, BBC and Business Insider and all these different National AMI, National Enquirer, all these people contacted me about this. They were going to my website and downloading shows from my website, paying for them. And my documents that I had on there, they were all subscribing on there, pulling up my documents. I had exclusively that 24-page letter where Epstein claimed that he was he was part of the inspiration for the Clinton Foundation, the Clinton Global Initiative, which Maxwell, by the way, was part of too, with her little submarine thing. I don't know what the hell she's doing.